discussed about working with colors and various options in the CSS. So how we can configure and deal with colors, right? So we learned about CSS colors, how we can define by using color name and hexadecimal and RGB, red, green, blue values. Actually, we have one more option for colors here. Technically, you will learn many options. For that, we need to understand some more points. So in the colors, we have used, these are the options. Yeah. How do we define red, green, and blue? Actually, in the color combinations, we have another option, RGBA. So color code, you can define color codes also. RGBA color code, but it is not supported on old version browsers like Internet Explorer and all. They are not supported. These work only on advanced browsers. They will work on advanced browsers. Actually, the concept of same as RGB, so they will have a fourth value. So that means these are same. So these are same. Yeah, these are same as these are same as RGB, but have a fourth value. So which actually belongs to the channel. You generally call it as alpha channel. It belongs to alpha channel. So actually alpha channel, so alpha channel controls opacity of color. So which you can define between 0 and 1, which you can define 0 and 1. That means the value for alpha channel must be between 0 and 1. So 0 will make complete transparent. Will make complete transparent, and 1 will make opaque. So technically, so values you can define the transparency between 0 and 1. So it requires one option of fourth color also. Color transparency is required. For example, suppose you have a body. So in the body, we have a body. We have some background image URL. So background image URL. So we are using a background image. Yeah. So the background image is coming from some images. So we have some images. In the images, we have some banner 1 or banner 2 or some option here we are having. So body background is defined with some image. So it is configured. Later I will tell you these background colors, effects and everything. We learned in another way also. So this is body. This is the body. So we have this option. Now we are setting with the different. So later we will learn these effects. Don't worry. Now these are the backgrounds actually. These are the backgrounds. And background images and options we are setting there. Yeah. Now, when you are configuring these background images, suppose we are adding some text somewhere here. Suppose I am adding a div. So I'm adding a div. So this div is configured with div, and so width is some 300 pixel and height as 200 pixel, and margin auto. So justify content center, align items center, something like this I defined. This div is having some heading saying that, so suppose some Amazon shopping, something like this. And that is Amazon shopping. Somewhere at the top you can see that. So we have that. So I'm giving here font size as some 50 pixels, font size for 50 pixels. You see Amazon shopping 50 pixels, it is there. So some font size increase it there. So this is the there. Background image I will adjust later. We will learn about that in the styles. Background is some tiles, and you can see this is Amazon shopping. Suppose I kept a background, so background color I am giving RGBA, so red, green, blue, and alpha. So the color RGBA. So that means RGBA color I'm configuring. And here we are defining the color as, suppose 255. We learned yesterday the range 0 and 0. And usually that is red color. That means the background should be for red color for that. So that means the background color we are configuring for that. So that is the div, so which is defined with the background color. And usually the background color according to that div, suppose we have to change the width 600 to 300. So the background color is adjusted for that. So actually our font size is very large defined here. So font size is very large configured here. You can see. So this is the original actually. So I am keeping this within the font, that is general. Remove the font. So we will set the background here. You can see this is the actual background color of this particular text. So text align to center. Okay, and height 200. That keeps this. And you see this background color of the div is completely blocking our general image actually. Now what we can do here, so in this I'm defining something. Yeah, in this what I'm doing is the alpha channel for RGBA I'm defining, so 0. So alpha channel I defined 0.3, alpha channel 0.3. Then you can see the transparency of the color will increase. 0.8, then you can see the transparency, it becomes more darker. 0.3, then it will be more lighter. You can see through in the background. 0.2, it becomes more transparent. That means you can see the content. I will give one option here. So that means if there is more content, you can see the image in the background is visible here. Through the color, you can see that. through the color you can see. You increase the suppose 8, I given 0.8, then you cannot see the image in the background clearly. So 0 here, 1 is complete dark, and I say 0.2, that means it makes more transparent, that color becomes more transparent, so that we can see the content behind it. See the content behind it. That is what actually the alpha channel, that means how you configure the colors. Technically, when we are defining the colors, so these are the options for the colors, right? So generally you can define the colors with the transparency, so that is RGBA, that is the colors combination. We have HSL colors also, hue, saturation, and lightness, that is HSL. But they are no longer supported on every browser. That's the reason it is recommended to define the colors with these combinations. That means you define the color by using hexadecimal, by using color name, and by using the options of RGBA or RGB, right? That is how we can do. We have another concept, gradients. That means different types of filling styles, that I will tell you when we discuss about background colors, how we can define the gradients and all. Generally, CSS colors means initially these three things we have to understand. So color values are configured by three options. RGBA, this is an example for that, means how you define the RGBA colors. So the red, green, blue, and the alpha channel for that, so that it can adjust the transparency, right, opacity. So that is the color options, how we can configure. This is about CSS colors, configuring them and working with them. So whenever you are defining the colors, you can use these combinations, right? Next, remember, still we are not learning any CSS effects. We are learning all the first starting level basics of CSS. Because before learning the effects, you should know first all these. How do we use selectors? How do we use colors? And another important point is about. So here you need to understand, today we will see another option, that is CSS units. So CSS units, so how you configure and define the CSS units. So technically, so what are the CSS units and how do we define the CSS units? Actually, CSS units, generally you have to learn you have to learn the CSS units in order to understand. So a numeric type of value, so which is used for setting the height, setting the width, setting the length. So that means you need to know about the units, how the units are configured, how the units are specified, right? Actually, units define the size, define the size, and position, actually define the size and position. So technically units are used for defining the size and position. So that means so you can configure height, you can configure width, so you can configure x, y, x position, so you can configure y position, so y position, you can configure z position. So z position is configured in 3D dimensions. So the configuration of these all done by using units actually. So units. So there are two types of lengths used. So in CSS actually. So units, we have two types of important units. We need to understand those two types of units. So actually the units in CSS, the units in CSS are categorized into two types. So the units are categorized into two types. So one, we have absolute length units. Another one, we have a relative length units. Absolute length units and relative length units. These are the two types of units we have. Actually, the absolute length units, they are not relative to. So what are absolute length units? Absolute length units. What are absolute length units? Let's see. Technically, so they are not relative to. They are not relative to anything else, and are generally considered as considered as uh, considered as normal units. None. That means actually these are not affected by other relative elements and their units. That is what actually we call as absolute units. Absolute units are individually defined. They don't have effect with other things. They are individually configured and individually defined. They don't have the effect with others. They don't usually have the effect with others. So these are absolute length units technically. What are the absolute length units? So how we can configure them? So that means they are not affected. They are not affected by other relative elements. Affected by related elements. That is. So how it happens? Let's see. So actually, what are those units we have? Let's see that. So technically, we need to understand an option here. So that is the units. What are the units? Let's take a look here. So we have a unit. So what are the units? You have to know how to measure and configure. We have a unit, you have a name and equivalent to. Technically, so the unit name. So what is the unit name and how the unit is written and what that is equivalent to? That is important. So the unit name is CM is the unit name. This is centimeters. This is centimeters. So centimeters, yeah, centimeters. This is CM is centimeters. And the centimeters equivalent to. So what is that equivalent to is actually 1 centimeter. So is equal to 1 centimeter is equal to 96 pixels divided by 2.54 according to the standards. That means as per the standards, it is equivalent to this. So that means 1 centimeter is equal to 96. So here you have the option. So that means if you set 1 centimeter, so we have 96, so 96 pixels divided by, so 2.54. That means it is equal to 37 pixels. So that is how the browser calculates the units. If you give 1 centimeter, it will define as 37 pixels actually, 37 pixels. So that means it is equivalent to 37 pixels actually, 37 pixels. That is how it configures and how it configures. So 1 centimeter means 37 pixels it will use. For example, that means we need to understand these options and sizes. So suppose we configure here some text to make it more clear here. So we have some text here. So that is some text Amazon shopping. Let's keep our browser 100% zoom. This is the actual size, actual size. Suppose I am not giving any heading, then you will get this text in its actual size. In the div, we have the text in its actual size. This is the original size actually. This is the original size. Then generally, this is the actual size. Then generally here, when you are configuring the size, I am defining here for the div, I am defining font size. Just temporarily, I am applying on font size and I am giving you. So here we are defining 1 centimeter, 1 centimeter. If I give 1 centimeter, you can see the font size increases. So font size increases. Actually, how much font size increases? Above this, I will keep. So suppose this we will apply through a class dot effects. Okay. And here I will use another div, Amazon shopping. That means the same text we are having, and here we are using the class effects, and it will apply. So this is the original. And this is the effects applied. That means 1 centimeter to the original. 1 centimeter to the original. Actually, original font size will be actually 16 pixels. Original font size will be 16 pixels. Generally, what happens for this? I'm individually adding style and font size. Font size is equal to, let's keep 37. Configuring 37 pixels font size for the above one. You can see it has same. And because in the calculator you see 37 points, some points are there. If you mention the points, that means both will be same. Because 1 centimeter is equal to, as we saw that it is approximately round, then it is 38. That means both look same. If you round, that will be 38. Both look same. That means this is the font size and this is in 1 centimeter. That means if you want the size to extend very fast, then that means you want the size to be very maximum extended, then use through centimeters. Very minor size I want to adjust, then go with pixels. That means I want little bit smaller, just 2-3 points smaller. Then I cannot go point by point centimeters. That will be very complex. You can go pixels, because pixel means, generally you know pixel. Pixel is nothing but, suppose you have some image here. So you have some image here. This is the image. That means this is some paint. In paint, actually, I am drawing some, I am writing some text here. Some font, I am typing as welcome, W. I am writing W. And I am having some font size here. Actually, this W is having some 150 font size. Okay. Now, generally what happens is, this is 150 font size configured here. And you see I will press Control G. Control G will put a grid here. You see, this is the grid. Control G, it is a grid. We are configuring a grid here. And you see in the grid, you can observe that here the every dot you can see that is considered as a pixel. The every dot you see that is considered as a pixel actually. Every dot you see that considered as a pixel. I will just zoom that here. You can see every dot is a pixel. Every dot is a pixel. You increase the width by 1 pixel. That means now this W will be increased with 1 pixel. This is 1 pixel actually, 1 pixel size. It will increase 1 pixel size. That means according to the width, that means this is the normal size. So it is having some 5 pixels. One more pixel will increase. That is 1 pixel. That is very minor. You can see that that is very minor. 1 pixel means only 1 point. That's very minor size increase. If you go through centimeters, then every centimeter will have large increment because every centimeter will increase 16. If you want very, every centimeter will increase more, right? So 37, 38. If you want very minor changes in the size, then we have to go with, so we have to go with this, right? Technically, so minor changes in the size, you go with pixels. Otherwise, you go with other measurement units, depending on the requirement. So that is the centimeters, how we can configure the centimeters, right? Another, you can define in millimeters, So millimeters, you can define the size in millimeters. So in millimeters, if you configure the size in millimeters, yeah, millimeters. When you configure in millimeters, generally, so meter, right? So so if you are configuring in meters, that means the millimeters and centimeters, that is millimeters. When you are configuring in meters, right? When you are defining in the meters, say millimeters, 1 millimeter is equal to 1 millimeter is equal to 1/10 of 1/10 of 1 centimeter actually. 1/10 of 1 centimeter. The millimeter is equal to 1/10 of 1 centimeter. It will define 1/10 of 1 centimeter, right? Technically, 1/10 of 1 centimeter, right? Right. So that is the concept, how we can define. So it will have a slight change. So slight change. So when we are configuring, this is what actually the slight change in the appearance. So depending on how you want to adjust, already I told you. Suppose this is 1 centimeter configured here, and this is normal. So the style is normal, not set here. The style is normal. Actually, normal is 16 pixels. So this is the normal size. The above one is normal. Now I will define here. So the size as 1 mm. That means 1 millimeter. 1 millimeter size will be 1/10 of 1 centimeter. That means it will be 1/10 of 1 centimeter. Very small. Very small. So you can configure that. Right? That means if I say 10 millimeters, then its size is same because it is 1/10 of centimeter. And if I define 10 millimeters, it will be is equal to 1 centimeter here. Means size will be similar. So technically it is configured with that. So it is defined and it is configured with that, right? Right. So that is the options. That is the option how we can configure and define. Right. So the measurement units can be configured. The measurement units can be configured. So into millimeters, into centimeters. Now, so we have a quarter millimeter also. We can configure Q. Q is used for quarter millimeter. It is used for quarter millimeters. Quarter millimeters. Quarter millimeters. Actually, 1/4 millimeter, 1/4 millimeter is equal to 1/40th of 1/40th of 1/40th of 1 centimeter. 1/40th of 1 centimeter. So technically, it is 1/40th of 1 centimeter. 1/40th of 1 centimeters. You defined 1/40. Based on that, you can apply the sizes and see. You have IN. IN is for inches. So it is for inches. And 1 inch is actually 1 IN is equal to 2.54 centimeters. So 2.54 centimeters. It is 2.54 centimeters. That means is equal to, you can say that 96 pixels. 96 pixels. It is 2.54 centimeters means it is 96 pixels size. And we have PC. This is PC is for picas. We have picas. 1 pica is equal to 1/6. So 1 pica is equal to 1/6 of 1 inch. 1/6 of 1 inch. That means 1 inch is 96 pixels. 1/6 of 1 inch. That is picas. So you can test all these sizes and you can try all these sizes. We can test and try all these sizes. Right? You can try. I showed you. You can, based on that, you can try others. And we have PT. PT is points. You can define in points. And 1 PT, 1 point is equal to, so 1 point is actually equal to, 1 point is equal to 1/72 of an inch, 1/72 of an inch, 1/72 of 1 inch actually, 1/72 of an inch. That is actually 1 PT point. And pixels, you know, pixel. So pixel, we configure that pixels in PIXELS pixels, and it is defined 1 pixel. Usually 1 pixel is equal to 1/96 of 1 inch actually, 1 inch. 1/96 of 1 inch. That is how actually we configure. So we configure the units, define the units. So why you have so many units? Because the point is depending on the situation. If you have to adjust your size according to the window, how to take the window sizes, page sizes also, we will see later in the next level, we will discuss about that. So according to the screen, so according to the screen output you are dealing with, so then always use pixels. So always use pixels. That means your presentation is related to screen. On the screen you are going to present, then better always go with the pixels. So you don't use centimeters and inches for on-screen presentation. If you are specially going with printout, that means all other values are useful only when you are going with printouts. Handle the printouts. Technically, you can handle the printout centimeters because they go onto the paper. And usually paper is measured in the centimeters, inches, right, points. That's the reason. So if you are going with on-screen presentation, you are not concerned about much printouts, then always go with pixels. Always go with pixels. These are all absolute units, absolute length units. So how do we define the absolute length units, configure the length units? And how you define them? This is one simple example. Since I just given a basic level example, then you can configure that others also, right? So this is I given a basic level example. I given a basic level example. Later everywhere we will use now, right? Everywhere we will use and we will see how do we define the different sizes. These are not having any effect relative to others, Actually, we have another set that is relative. We have relative length units. We have relative length units. Technically, we have relative length units. Generally, relative length units are relative to generally other contents inside the page. They are relative to other contents inside the page. So relative length units. The main point is relative length units. These are related to other contents in the page. Other contents in the page. These are related to other content in the page. That means so like the size is determined based on its parent or child element, based on parent or child element. That means the point here is nothing but the advantage is so when the parent size is changed, the relative size also will change automatically. That is good. If you define absolute units, they don't have any relation actually. For example, the point is simple, like, so this is the font effect. I given 1 centimeter, and here I have given as, so this is given as 2 centimeter. This is 2 centimeter. That means the first one is having 2 centimeter. The first one is having the 2 centimeter. So the second one is having 1 centimeter. Now what should happen is, so if I change this to 1 centimeter, so that means the parent, this is parent heading, this is child heading. If I change the parent heading to 1 centimeter, then according to the parent, it should change its size. Second one should change its size. That is what actually relative is. But here it will not change because both are independent. So because the you given one, that means both are having the same size. 1 centimeter means both are having the same size. You can see both are having the same size. But when I change the size of parent, the child also should adjust according to that. So that is what actually the relative actually. That is what actually relative units. How these relative units are used? How these relative units will work? Just we will see one example how we can define the relative units and configure the relative units, define the relative units. Let's see. Generally, relative units, we have so many. So what are those relative units? Let's take a look. So generally, relative units that we have and we can configure. So we have two options, relative units. Yeah. So you have a unit and relative to. So these are the options you configure. Generally, what is the concept of relative units and how they are affected usually? So let's take a look here. So the option of relative units. So the option of relative units, you see first one. So the relative units we have EM. EM is one important relative unit. Centimeters, inches, pixels, all these are normal. So EM is a relative unit. That means the size of parent. So, and like depending on the size and the font size itself, it will change according to the existing element, according to the existing elements. So based on the width, they will change, they will affect here. Suppose EM is actually, it is a font size of the parent. Technically, it is the font size of parent. We configure the font size of the parent. And in case of any change in the font size and any effect happened into the font size, it will affect the other elements. So that means it will affect the child hierarchies, That is what actually the concept of EM. That means how we can configure EM. So for example, they don't have direct effect actually. They don't have direct effect. So they don't have the direct effect. How this works, we will use. So EM is EM and we have REMMs also, relative units. We will see both of options. That means these are mostly for font size of the parent, and it defines the font size of current element. It uses the font size of parent and defines. That means actually it uses font size of parent and it defines font size of current, defines the font size of current element. That is what actually it defines. So you can configure for the width, you can configure for the height, you can define anywhere. So you can manage that by using this EM, actually defining configuration by using EM. Technically, how this works, how this is configured. To understand this, we need to learn all others also. We will see that generally how the options are defined, how the options are configured, we will use them. So we will apply them and see them. Actually, suppose we are defining some effects. We are defining some effects here, configuring the effects. So generally how the effects are defined. So suppose we have a body. Inside the body, we are having some options configured like unordered list. In that list item, so we have some 1. So list item is 2, and list item is 3, like this. And you have some combination of list item. Means we have inner outer combinations also available. We have inner and outer combination also available. Okay, first actually, suppose we have base font size we are defining. Suppose I defined, so body font size I defined as 16 pixels. Then usually it will affect all of them. Body font size is defined to 16 pixels. It is applied to all of them. So body font size is defined to 32 pixels. Then you can see all the size will be increased depending on, so how you configure, so depending on. So now what happens here is we are configuring the size. So this is 32 pixel body size. Okay. So I will add here, so effect. I am configuring the effect. So with font size as so 2EM. I am defining the font size as 2EM. That means actually 32 pixels, that is the font size. 2EM, EM means so relative to the existing size. because the parent body size is 32 pixels. Relative to that size, this effect size will change to 2 EM, means 2 times than the previous one. That means 2 times to relative to the body section, relative to the body option that you have defined. That means here I am giving an effects. That means I am defining a class, and I will give the class as effect. Effect is the class defined here. And you can see that size will increase. Actually, what we do now is, so the body size, in the body, we have defined the content, some Amazon. And this is the body content we have configured. This is Amazon. So this is defined with how many pixels? 32 pixels. And 2 EM, 32 pixels, 2 EM means it is 64 pixels. That means it is 64 pixels. These are defined with 64 pixels. Actually, this is, suppose if I defined the font size of body as 16 pixels, I changed it. Body font size changed. Then we will see whether there is an effect inside this unordered list also. You can see that unordered list also have some effect. What is the effect in the unordered list? It will change according to the size of the body. Suppose I am defining here. So let's take this quick look side by side. So let's take the quick look side by side. So of these two options here, means how they are configured. So we will see side by side here. Now, what we are configuring exactly is, so this is the size. Yeah. What we are configuring exactly is, I am changing the font size of body to 30. I am changing the font size of body to 30 and save it. And according to that, you can see that the unordered list also will change. Unordered list also will change. That means I am changing the font size here to 25, and according to that, the unordered list will adjust. So because, see, if I define this, if pixels, okay, it is 25 pixels. It will not affect everyone. So that means because it is 25, body size has been changed. Now here we are not defining any size here. This is pixels, px, 25 pixels. Now you can see changing this. Suppose I change it to 30. I change it to 30 pixels. It is not affecting this one. I change it to 40 pixels. 40 pixels. It is not affecting this one. I am changing to 50 pixels. It is not affecting this one. If the unordered list have to affect based on the parent sizes, then these are absolute sizes. Absolute sizes means the effect is independent and the body is independent. This size is independent. Pixel is an independent size. But if I define that 50 pixels and here I say 1 EM, that means you can see both will be same. Both will be same. Suppose if I say 2 EM, then it will be double the original base size. You can see. So when I save this, yeah, when I save this, you can see it will be double the size. It will be double the size of this. And I am changing here as 20, then it will affect that. Based on that, it will up. That is why these are called relative sizes, relative units. What is the point about relative units? So relative units usually, technically, relative units always technically affected by the other elements, whether it is the parent or child hierarchy. Based on the parent and child hierarchy, they will affect. That is what actually EM, how you configure the options as EM. So there is another option also. So there are so many such options available. These are all under the category. These are all under the category of working with relative units. These are relative units. So that is in the relative units, you have this EM. And similarly, the relative units you have as EX. EX is another relative unit. So EX is another relative unit. And EX is nothing but it defines X height of elements font. It defines the X height of element font. X height of element font. That means it will not affect Y axis. It will affect the X axis. X axis means usually it affects the width. It will not affect the height. I will apply and display that. And in different occasions we use. First we will see complete what are there. We have CH. That means it is actually so defined for width. Defined for width. And with regard to defined for width actually it is defined for width actually with regard to the parent, or you can say that with regard to the root element. So for this all we need to design some examples and we will see. That means REM is nothing but, so that means it will keep the font size to the root element size. That means what is the root element size? It will keep the same size. It will not change. EM will change. REM means root element size. It will keep the size to the root element. If root element is 40, then its size also will be 40, right? Similarly, ln is defined. So ln is defined for line height of the element. That means it will not affect the width, it will affect the height. We have VW. So VW is actually 1% of the viewport's width. Viewports already we discussed it. Viewports you will also learn some more. Viewports means we have defined in meta. So VH is for 1% of the viewport's height. That means how much viewport's height is mentioned based on that 1%. And Vmin, so we have Vmin. This is 1% of the viewports smaller dimension. Actually, for that we will learn about max width, min width. Next level we will discuss about. This is for min width, and we have so Vmax. This is 1% of this. All you are going to see practically. So 1% of the viewports. So the viewports larger dimension. It is 1% of the viewports larger dimension. We are going to see all of them, right? In different occasions we will see all of them. But important, you should know that. So in CSS, the measurement units are configured in this way. This is one simple basic example of only one option I have defined to you. We can add other options. So according to situation, we will discuss about them. We will use them in different options. For that, we need to set other points also. Technically, these are all the units that you define. Now, similarly, we have to understand about another option is, once you know about the size, means how we can configure. Another option you need to understand is how you can define for different screen widths and different effects. That means 2 points, colors and units. If you are perfect with them, then we can start working with the effects now. We will learn about all types of effects like margins, padding, borders, shading, colors, and how do we apply all the effects and make the appearance better. So we will now start working with CSS effects, backgrounds, positions, borders, shadings, shadows, 2D, 3D, how we can give the effects. That we will start in the next session, right? Tomorrow we will see. So from tomorrow onwards, we are going to start the CSS effects. With those effects, we can create some examples and presentations, right? Now, first tomorrow, what I will do is, with whatever we have learned, I will give you some exercises tomorrow first. Tomorrow, entire session first, I will give you some exercises. I will explain. and you have to do those exercises and submit me. So you have to submit those exercises to me. So some screenshots and designs I will give you. So you have to design them and send me. So I will verify them, what you have done. Then we can go with the other effects and learn, because with all what you have learned, you must able to build some examples now. I will give you some examples. Based on that, you try. Later in other effects, we can continue with the options, right? Tomorrow, we will continue with that, right? Yeah.